Hello you guys, let's do a fun new project. We're going to use some decoupage. So I went ahead, I've already washed and scuff sanded this piece. It's an old sewing table. The one with the sewing machine was on the inside. So now I'm just going to put some white paint down where I'm going to lay the decoupage. You always want to put white paint down first. It really does help your decoupage become crisp and make it very vibrant, even if the decoupage is a dark color. So we have some really pretty tissue paper here, sunflower design. I'm just taking a wet paintbrush. I just dip it in some water and I use it to outline my paper and kind of rip it. I never just want to put a square piece of paper down because I will tell you it's harder to hide the edges when it's square as opposed to when it has kind of a little ruffly edge. It's just a really good way to start every piece of decoupage every time I do it. That way, when I blend around to make the decoupage paper kind of disappear, the lines, you can't really tell. So I try to always at least take a little bit off. I'm going to lay down a clear coat, and my preference is Dixie Belle's Satin Clear Coat. It is a very thick decoupage gel. It is fabulous. I am just going to put it down, and it's going to act as my glue. I'm going to take a dry brush and not my hands and kind of spread it out. This will help me get all the wrinkles out. I try to do half at a time. That way I don't have to peel it up and put it down. It's easier to get less wrinkles. I'm just taking my decoupage medium right out of my jar because that's how I roll. Just putting it down, and you have a few minutes to work with this, just laying it down, brushing it out with my dry brush. Just any kind of dry brush will work. And this smooths out all the wrinkles. It's really easy to do. We're going to go ahead and top coat this with the same product, which was the Dixie Belle Clear Coat. So now I'm going to texture this piece. This is going to be a fun technique. I don't think I've done many videos on this. We're going to give it a really chunky texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the paint that I'm going to do the base coat with, and in this case it's Dixie Belle's Coffee Bean, which is a dark espresso brown. I mix salt wash with my paint, which gave me a texturized paint. I am taking my brush and I'm stippling, I'm using just an old brush, stippling on my paint so it gets some texture, meaning it has some little bumps and grooves, which is going to be part of my overall finish on this really cool piece. While my paint is still wet, I'm going to take the same salt wash and I'm going to drop it, it's powder, onto the wet paint, okay? There is a method to my madness, just stick with me. When I do that, I'm just going to lightly spritz it with some water. Remember, the paint is still wet. We want the paint to be wet, so we're only going to do this a section at a time when the paint's wet. We're going to spritz it with some water so it doesn't like all fall off. We're going to let that absolutely dry. We're going to put it all over this piece, wherever we want to see a resistive texture. Because what's going to happen is we're going to paint over the top, and then we're going to do a process where we're going to be able to see the brown underneath. It's just really cool. Just stick with me. So we're going to do it around the decoupage, and I just kind of just go around lightly. I'm not trying to like get on the paper yet. I'm not blending this part. I am just adding a thin layer of textured dark brown base coat over the entire piece, right? Just stipple, 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 blah, 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 and go around this whole thing. The paint, I did this pretty quickly. The paint is wet, so we are then going to do the same thing where we drop little goblets of the salt wash on it while the paint was wet. Just going to take little bits of salt wash here and there. No rhyme or reason to where I put it and why I do it. There's never a rhyme or reason to what I do, but it just works out. So a little bit of salt wash here and there. You want it to look natural. You want it to kind of not be uniform. You don't want to line the same ones up on each side. Then we're going to spray it with a little bit of water. Okay, just a little bit. Now we're going to let it all dry. We're going to let it sit until that paint dries and the salt wash is wet, the clumps that I put on there. Remember, it's the same stuff that I added into the paint to give me the texture. Now I'm giving an outer texture. I'm going to go ahead and take some paint now that is very similar in the piece that I'm doing. And I'm going to stipple this on. I'm going to go right over that salt wash that we dropped on. It's okay if it gets in my brush or if it comes up a little bit. I am using some colors, some pretty colors on this. A lot of a burlap color, which is a tan color, some yellows, and then an off-white. Actually, it was sawmill gravy, all from Dixie Belle. And I'm just kind of stippling over the top of this to kind of make that tissue paper. Do you see suddenly that the lines have disappeared? The secret to do this is to find colors that are similar within your piece and add them around the decoupage medium. And that way it appears to not just be a square, right? It just looks like the picture just continues to go. It's a really fun way to paint. Now remember, we're tapping right over that dried salt wash. See the white? We're gonna tap right over it. We're just gonna go and just tap right over. And if we disrupt some of the salt wash, it's okay, it'll go back on our brush. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're not gonna swipe back and forth though, because then it's going to move the salt wash, and you'll see why here in about 20 seconds as to why I put that down like I did. There will be an explanation soon, so don't stop watching. You've only got a few more minutes to the end. Tap, tap, tap over the top of the salt wash, over the top of the brown base of paint. There's a yellow. I'm using a yellow, a tan, and an off-white to make the decoupage paper just look like it's continuing. Then we're going to let that thoroughly dry, like it has to be dry. And it'll take a little bit longer because we went over the top of the salt wash. Okay? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab a metal putty knife. And you are going to scrape where you applied that salt wash. So you're going to scrape off the layers, and this is how you're going to get that cool chippy effect. And it's going to look super, super natural. I'm taking the metal putty knife and I'm just wiping, smoothing out. I don't need sandpaper. I'm just scraping where I had dropped the layers of salt wash, and now look what happens. When I get that wet, the salt wash just dissolves basically because it's not embedded in anything. And basically, this is the finish that it ends up being. It looks super old and chippy. This is not an old paint. This is brand new paint. We're gonna do that on all the sides where we dropped the salt wash. I did it on the legs. I did it on the top. We are just going to scrape. And this does not damage your paint. If you keep your putty knife pretty level, you're not going to scratch the paint off. But where you would drop those little mountains of salt wash, guess what? It makes a super natural looking chippy finish. I want you guys to try this. This is so fun. I do have salt wash in my store. It is the absolute best texture material you can buy. I absolutely love it. Can't live without it. It's super, super cool product. Comes in a couple sizes, 10 ounces and like a bigger one. Of course, I use the big tub. Spray it with a little bit of water if you want to see what it looks like, but honestly, you could just wax right over it and it would look the same. I will end up waxing this when I am done to finish it off. So I'm going to scrape all the sides, the top, and then I'm going to wax it to seal it, and it's going on the floor. This, my friends, is a super fun finish. So fun. This is what the end result looked like. I hope you enjoyed. It's so pretty. What a great way to upcycle an old sewing machine table really quickly. Now it can be used for years to come. What a pop of color. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.